Hello, somebody wanted me to do a video what I thought about the Pleiadian aliens, and I think they asked me twice, so, and I thought I would have done that video already, but, I've been forgetting to look in my playlist and see if I actually did, so I'll just make the video again. Yeah, what I know about the Pleiadian aliens are from, in 96, I read a book by Barbara Marciniak, who's like, I guess she was the original Pleiadian channeler, and she channels the Pleiadians, and I was really riveted by that book. The part about how she said that, we were going into a new age of enlightenment and all that kind of stuff, I totally ate up, and I was totally into, and, because I've always believed that there were aliens here, Back when I was in 7th grade in, 87, I read some book about ancient aliens. Maybe it was the one from Eric Van Daniken. Yeah, and I was riveted by that book, and I was like, yeah. Because I always had the idea, the intuitive idea that there was aliens here, landing here, and involved in our past and stuff. And then there's Billy Mayer, and I saw some videos about him and just some basic stuff that he said. I made a video saying that he's a fraud, but I'm not totally convinced about that. Maybe he isn't. But if he isn't a fraud, then he's definitely been being visited by some disinformation people, because there are some things about him that are wrong, like picture of some Jansi, the Pleiadian, they saw that same picture. It was from an Italian game show. Some girl there, and from the 60s, and his little beam ships have been proved to be false and stuff, and whatever. But maybe he could have gotten information from somebody else who was legit. So anyways, you just gather information from as many people as you want, and you just believe what you want to believe. It's called trusting your intuition. Sometimes people are like, you can't believe what's most convenient. It's like, yeah, you do. That's called trusting your intuition. But, so basically what I remember of what she said, and also basically using my own, ideas about what a utopian society would be like, because that's what I think Pleiadians are. But I think the Pleiadians were basically the ancient Greek gods, the gods of old. I believe that because I think Barbara Marciniak said something about how said they have a lot of an influence in Greece. So if they have a lot of influence in Greece, and there were gods in Greece, well then therefore the gods in Greece were Pleiadians. Now the gods from the ancient Sumerians were called the Anunnaki, and the Sumerians lived, the golden age of Greece was or the beginnings of Greece were 1500, 1800 BC, and the very beginning of the Sumerians were 3200 BC and stuff, so it's kind of around the same time, and it's really close to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and come to the conclusion that the gods from Sumeria and the gods from Greece were the same gods. So the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians are the same people. Anunnaki are Pleiadians. Now there is the idea that this the planet X and stuff, and that's Anunnaki. And I guess some channelers have talked about that. And so maybe Anunnaki are kind of like rogue Pleiadians. So the Pleiadians are cool, and then the Anunnaki would be kind of like the rogue ones who... Because some of the aliens in the past did do some stuff that was... I guess some people could view as being not that nice. Having wars with each other. The Mahabharata is filled with tales of accounts of wars between gods. So, maybe they just didn't have their shit together as much the ones who came down here and had some kind of wars. And but I think for the basically, the Pleiadians are a peaceful group. Now, let me talk about the my intuition. Back in like 97, there was these... It was actually during the time of like the harmonic convergence. It was this... I don't even know what that is, but it was supposed to be some kind of big harmonic convergence. Propagated that all these people were supposed to they got together and like prayed together and stuff by... That was spread by Jose Arguelles. I remember hearing about that because he was like acquaintances with my parents in Boulder, you know, in the Buddhist Sangha. So they were talking about that because we were on a road trip that summer. And so I remember listening to the radio. We played Yanni and Patrick O'Hearn. And when I listened to that, I think it was about the time where I read that book. And I guess it was by Eric Von Däniken talking about aliens. And I was thinking about the aliens when I heard that. Yanni, Ancient Dreams, Patrick O'Hearn, or maybe Patrick O'Hearn, Ancient Dreams. But there's some songs like that took me back and made me think about aliens and peace. So much peace that there's just happiness. So much peace that there's your happiness can be a lot greater. I think happiness is something that it can increase the longer you live. You know, like I think like a human can generally be happier than a dog. The happiness that they feel, the fulfillment that they feel is greater. You know, dogs will reincarnate and become humans and stuff. I mean, they're happy enough for what's appropriate for them and stuff, and they're perfectly happy. But I think generally, happiness can be grown. It's this feeling of joy. And that's why I think, you know, the vibration of the cosmos and the aliens and stuff, they're just they're practically laughing all the time. They're like just so happy. And I mean, obviously they'd be happy. And think about how happy you would be if you had as much money as you wanted, you know, and you could fly anywhere in the cosmos and you wanted to live as long as you wanted, knew as much as you wanted, with nothing to worry about. You'd be bouncing off the walls happy, laughing, like literally laughing all the time. And so that's why I think the vibration of the universe is just this one big, Terence McKenna called it the cosmic giggle, and I think that's a perfectly cool, appropriate thing to call it. It's this big giggle, like cosmos is laughing. So those aliens are very happy. Yanni is Greek, and so I think this country of Greece holds a lot of that ancient alien vibration, Pleiadian vibration, and I think he picked up on that. And I think those songs from Yanni and Patrick O'Hearn, I think I have them on my cool music playlist, are actual songs of the Pleiades, like psychically channeled. It's actual songs, like real tunes that they just picked up. There's some other music that made me think about stuff too. There was this Deep Breakfast Rhythm in the Pews song, which made me think about Atlantis, which was like that as well. Very peaceful Pleiadian energy. But I also Ra in those books say that they said they were the Venetians, but they said that the human body can live for about 900 years. That's what the human body is designed to live for. Bashar says that those guys live about 3 to 500 or something, and he's like 150 years old. And then I can't remember what Barbara Marciniak said how long they live, but Billy Mayer said they live for like 1,000 years or something. The Pleiadians, like they're in school for like 700 years or something. So, I remember a long time ago I saw this Star Trek, one of the original Star Treks with Captain Kirk, with William Shatner, and in that episode they found the gods. They went to the planet where the ancient Greek gods lived, and they were actually aliens. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is stupid. But now, looking back on it, that's actually pretty accurate. I think that's the way we should look at it, is that the gods from the ancient Greece and all that stuff, and all the, everybody believes in the Pleiadians. One interesting thing about the Pleiadians is that, this is what I heard, and I haven't backed this up myself. If you get my, if you have me send you my collection, I have like the Bibles of everywhere in the world, and that'd be cool to like back that up. But I heard that everybody in the world has stories that the gods came from the Pleiades. The Pleiades are the 7 sisters. It's the constellation on the Subaru, and they're really easy to spot. It's not a really big constellation, but you can see it with the naked eye. But yeah, I think the Pleiades are like 3. There's the 7 stars we can see, but then there's like another like 100 or something like in there that all the different Pleiades planets revolve around. There's like hundreds of planets that people live on. So it's just cool to imagine that living on a planet where you can fly to another planet. And I think the life of a Pleiadian would be like, they can fly around in spaceships, those little round spaceships. Those are the ones that belong to the Pleiades. The really simple round ones, oval ones. Shiny, oval, round. Not the ones with the jagged, not like the triangle ones, the ones with all the jagged stuff around them. Those are like crude, probably the ones built by like our own government underground with technology given to them, Pleiadian. Because the Pleiadians, I heard, I think this is Barbara Marciniak again, said that they're really into beauty and art, and that's kind of one thing that they tried to pass on to the Greeks. So I think oh yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked. Yeah, when I saw that Star Trek, I think that's a cool way. That's the way that we really should look at the Pleiadians. Look at the ancient gods. That we should call them gods, the gods, but they're aliens, and they're actually people who live not out there on Mount Olympus, but they live out there on the Pleiades. And and like the gods are immortal, they never die. Yeah, and they're immortal. They live 1,000 years, which is immortal to us. And in the Greek legends, this is going back from in high school, because when I was in 10th grade, I took Greek mythology class. The Greeks were supposed to be really big, bigger than humans, like giants. And that's kind of depicted that way in the ancient Egyptian artwork, when you see the gods next to the humans, and also the Sumerians. So maybe those are the Anunnaki who are bigger. Maybe all those Pleiadians, there's just different strains, and there's different. Some are really big, just based on the size of their planet. The smaller a planet is, the larger you're going to be, because there's less gravity. So maybe they're not Pleiadians. Those were the Anunnaki. But I would like to know if there's anybody out there who knows of like a book written by a Pleiadian contactee channeler. I think there's going to be more and more coming around. More channelers who channel the Pleiadians, or even abductees. I think most of the people who are abductees are kind of full of shit, though, because when you hear like that guy Riley Martin, he's probably full of shit, because if he really was an abductee, he would have more stuff to say. That's just the way I see it. He wouldn't just, like the story that he would be limited to, wouldn't just be like how he had sex with a really hot lady and had a baby with her and then got in a boxing match with some dude. Maybe not. Maybe he's for real, but Same thing with like Al Bielek. He talked about how he was in the future for 2 years, but he didn't really even talk about that much. So maybe he's full of shit, or maybe it was like a dream. He didn't remember it. I don't know. But you would think that if somebody was an actual contactee, they would have a lot more to talk about than just like, be done with their story in like 15 minutes. But channelers, I believe, and I think that's how the information is going to come. I think we're going to, in about 50 years, we're going to know everything about our past. And it's going to come by channelers. And then it's going to just basically be like, the people who write the book are going to be kind of like icons, and everybody reads them, and then they tell the story to each other. And then like all the New Agers, New Age hippies, like know the story, and then they just tell normal people. Kind of like how that 2012 thing got out. Now everybody knows about the 21st of December 2012 into the Mayan calendar. But before that, it was just like only the New Agers talked about it amongst themselves, and then it kind of grew out from there. I think that's how that's how the whole story of aliens and humankind and everything is going to eventually get to everybody. Just people talking about it, and then it just becomes common knowledge. And then normal people are like, well, maybe that's not just this crazy story of crazy people. Maybe it's real. And next thing you know, everybody believes it. And then we kind of invite them down, That's how it's going to happen. But like the life of a Pleiadian, and one interesting thing about the Pleiadians is you can actually know them, you meet them, because Barbara Marciniak is a trance channeler, and when she talks, she kind of has a different accent, and it's not an accent that you can pinpoint on a certain planet or a certain country on this planet. It's shit. I might run out of battery juice. If I run out of battery juice, I'll have to finish this later. Yeah, she talks like this or something, and it's a really calm voice. And I think that's the energy of the Pleiadians. They're just very calm. Kind of like they've been meditating for like 50 years. Because they're really old, so they probably do just sit down and just like take their time eating breakfast, And so they're just very calm, like this. And that's how they talk. Except for when they get, excited and tell stories. But like the lady, what's that lady, Ramtha, J.Z. Knight, she kind of has a similar accent as Barbara Marciniak. So maybe that guy is a Pleiadian. And also, Jane Roberts has some accent that's similar to the Pleiadians. She's more like jazzed and like intense than like Barbara Marciniak. But I think that's basically the energy of the Pleiadians. They're just very calm. Kind of like a hippie, like, hey. Only they're very, not like irreproachable, Somebody wouldn't be like, oh, you're a stupid hippie. They'd be like, oh, wow, you're smart, what you're saying. And there's another guy, he's like a German accent, and he says he's a Pleiadian, and he talks about like how we should, he's like really like conspiracy theorist, turn off the TV, they're trying to kill you, and like shut your brain off and stuff. And yeah, I believe that. There's definitely an energy on this earth of people being afraid of change and afraid of increase of vibration, like peace. They don't want that. It's just so different to them that they can't accept it. It's kind of like if you have a conversation with somebody who's really like a closed-minded person, or like a fundamentalist Christian who believes that everybody's going to hell except for them, and you try to, or an atheistic type of person. I have this conversation with people all the time on YouTube, and they're like, especially on my Where Buddhism Went Wrong video, they're like, and Christians believe this too, they're like, you can't believe something just because it's convenient to you. You can't believe something just because that's what you want it to believe, So they're basically saying, yeah, reality is bad and suffering, and you have to accept that, and that's the truth. But then my logic is, well, everything we've imagined, we've created. Everything we have here, it's because somebody imagined it and created it, and that's what we wanted. And look how amazing the world is and what we've created. With all the technology and everything. And now all we have to do is imagine world peace, and eternal life for our bodies, live 1,000 years and fly to other planets and hang out with the aliens and all that, legalize drugs and not put any money into the military, just have faith and we'll have it. You just have to, it's like you have to create the space and then it'll get filled up. You can't, if you don't open up the bottle and allow water to come into, it's just going to stay a hermetically sealed container that's empty inside. You have to allow it, That's the way the universe works. If you don't allow it to come in, it can't. Because if it forced itself in, even if it's world peace, then that would be violating your free will. So, but anyways, so I think if you want to know what the Pleiadians are like, you just imagine what a utopian world is like. And so I imagine like Pleiadians, the planet of the Pleiadians is very nature. And Bashar mentioned that his planet is like that. It's just nature. It's like forests and lakes, and they live in really simple houses. I don't think they live in giant mansions, because giant mansions, that's like your house, Why would you need something to yourself that's that big? The big buildings and stuff would have to be communal. And that's why one thing, living in a van like the way that I'm living, I feel like I'm in the future, because I think the future and the way that the Pleiadians is set up is people's private houses are pretty modest. It's just like a place where they sleep, basically. But they spend their time out there with other people. They spend they sleep at their house, and then they go out and they have lunch at the big lakeside library, or the gym. They work out at the gym at the communal gym. And so when I live in my van, I spend all day long in a communal setting. I'm either at the Starbucks with people all around me, even though I've got my 2 computers plugged in and my external hard drive plugged in. I've got all my crap around me. There's like people all around me. Then I go to the gym and there's people all around me at the gym. I'll go to the library. I'm never alone except for when I'm sleeping, and my house. I don't consider myself to be homeless. Like this van is a house. It has everything a house has. It has a table. It has a bed. I have my water right there. I've got all my stuff here. I even have electricity. It's just a small house that moves. It's a mobile home. The size of a normal car. So I don't consider myself to be homeless. And I don't need anything more, because I have all of my, everything is free. Library's free. Hanging out at the Starbucks is practically free. The gym. And I think that's what the future is. People who have big houses and they've got their own gym and their own house, where they're all by themselves all the time. I mean, I understand why they do that. Like if they're famous, they don't want people to be calling their name all the time, and it gets annoying, and maybe they'll feel like their security isn't, they get jumped by a bunch of people who didn't like their last movie or something, or especially if they're like an action star, they get jumped by somebody who wants to kick their ass so they can brag that they kicked the ass of like some action star or something. Or if you're like a political figure, somebody doesn't like you, what you voted for, so they want to assassinate you. So maybe why these people, they spend their money on just locked up inside of a house. But I think the world of the future and of the Pleiadians is there's enough equality in people's income and on people's power and influence that nobody has any reason to be afraid of other people. So they don't have these big houses. And if, having a big house, maybe if it's not just about security, it's about your ego, because there's really no reason to have such a big house. You have everything you need out there in community. Like when I have dreams of the future, I just dream of really, like the houses are really open. not locked, not even having roofs on them. I had a dream that the roof was actually a big bubble over the city, and so the houses didn't have room. Like anybody could have just jumped into somebody else's house, you know, easily. And I think that's how the future is going to be. Like, it'll just be communal. Stuff gets cheaper as time goes on, you know. And so that's kind of one problem with the economy right now, is that we're transitioning from a manufacturing economy into a digital economy. And I think that we should all try to embrace that and help that move along. Because once enough time goes by, especially if people live a long time, we're not going to need to be, and the growth of technology starts to slow down. People aren't going to be needing to buy stuff all the time because they're already going to have it, and then stuff's going to become really cheap. So stuff will actually become communal. A lot of cities have free bicycles. You just pick up the bike and you ride it, and I think that's the way of the future. Back in the future, it'll just be like it. Well, and basically the Pleiades are us in the future. How we're going to be in the future. So, yeah, in the Pleiades, they've got just bikes. You just grab a bike and you go. And everything's state owned. It's all communism. And I think that's a transition that we're going to need to start to embrace as well, is making, like, the banks all state-owned. Stuff that we all use, state-owned. Only like... But that's kind of complicated. I mean, that's a really slow process, too. That's not really what this video is about, but... that's what I think the Pleiadians are like. They're just really... It's all... so like set into place and organized that they're just very it's owned by everybody, you know. And they take their time, and it's doing whatever they do, you know, getting up and just having just enjoying every moment of what they do, having not having any deadlines, not having to show up at a place at a certain time. They're their own God. They're their own being. But I think what they do for fun... What somebody wrote on one of my videos, like, in the future, yes, we're not going to have competition. Well, I think humans, we're going to go through a phase where we're going to be really competitive and have competition. But maybe one day, once they're advanced enough, they even evolve out of competition, and I agree with that. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon for humans on this planet. I think we're going to, and I don't want it to happen. I mean, I love competition, as far as, you know, athletic competition and intellectual competition. It doesn't have to be like an ego-based thing, you know. Like, if you get beaten in something, it's not because you're not as smart or as good. It's just because you didn't put as much time into that particular thing. And it just helps to motivate you to do well as a competition. But, yeah, I do think that once they're advanced enough, they don't have any interest. They grow out of that. And I think the Pleiadians have grown out of that competition. And so what they do for fun is they just study. Like Billy Meyer said, they study for like 700 years. And I think their studying is studying the universe, because they can fly around the universe. So a fun thing, what a Pleiadian would consider to be fun, would be seeding, or a challenge. Fun in a challenging way would be doing what the ancient gods in Greece did. Finding some planet of monkey people and bringing them technology. And there's probably a whole science to it, a whole protocol and everything, all set down with those Pleiadians who go out and grow humans. And maybe that's why they had the wars with the reptilian aliens. That's what Barbara Marciniak said. They had these wars before, because I think the reptilian aliens and the human aliens are interested in doing the same thing, and so maybe they had some jurisdiction problems, you know, because there's limited amount of planets. So, but I do think that there's some higher aliens, which are humans. I think the highest aliens, the ones with the most power, are actually the humanoid aliens. I think reptilian aliens only can exist to a certain level of intelligence because they aren't empathetic enough. So I think the real guardians, are for us would be like humans who are kind of phasing out of even the physical and becoming their technology becoming so advanced that they're kind of getting to the point where they don't even need spaceships. I think the evolution of human beings is becoming a god. Now, when I say a god, it's like somebody who can fly around the universe just with your body, or not even with your body, but like as a spirit, like a god. I think it's very, 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 very slow process with lots of tiny little baby steps. And I think some of the aliens that are like way up there, like hardly even human. Oh shit, we're about to run out of time. It's the Arcturians. Okay, now I'm distracted. I'm gonna have to finish this later. I'm sorry. Peace out. Okay, here I am to speak of the Pleiadians now that my battery power is recharged. Basically personality of the Pleiadians, yes. The future of the Pleiadians, the Pleiadians are like the people of the future. So their personalities are quite similar to, well, I guess people of the future. But they, if you live a long time, you're going to be really relaxed, And so I think that's how they are. That's how they speak, very relaxed and very calm. But it's not like a hippie here on Earth who's like, what? Like people think that he's like spaced out. It's more like they're just calm and they know what they're saying. But I have read some books, I can't remember, or heard, that like aliens, they can't be around humans so much because humans have very aggressive energy. And I think that is, it's kind of like one reason why Pleiadians don't, you're not going to see a whole lot of aliens walking amongst us and hanging out with us. They're kind of, they don't find it very pleasant. People are kind of, it's kind of like a dog-eat-dog type of a world. It's kind of like if a first worlder goes to a third world country. And the third world countries, the people who like yell the loudest and like are the ones who get the attention, and you basically, the laws work in third world countries, whereas you do like what you can get away with basically, and they don't really have that much of a sense of doing stuff because it's right. Kind of like that with aliens, like they'll do stuff. They do stuff because it's right, and they don't have this. They don't understand some concepts that we have, like as far as like, people having respect for people just because they're like, they put on a show, they act all like, and so they're not fake, they're like more real. The Pleiades. But I think that they had a big program coming over here with the Greeks, getting the Greek civilization going. One really interesting thing to think about the Greeks is like back in the Greek city-states, we had all these philosophers. This is like, say, coming out of the Dark Ages and stuff with the Greeks. They had all these philosophers and writing pretty advanced philosophy, talking about like basically all these different prototypes for how we should run government and stuff like that. That basically was the Bible for that kind of stuff. for science and everything, all the way up until the scientific revolution. And they had democracies back in Athens, and it was kind of, I think it was they set up a culture. It was alien setup, and those gods, from the Greeks were actually the aliens, and that's what the legends say. Like in Mycenos, it's like the earliest Greek city in Greece. And it's right next to the treasure of Atreus, which has these really big stones that I looked at, and I didn't think it was possible that humans could make that. But legends are that the Cyclops has made them, who are these ancient giants who are like part god, and everybody has those legends. And the legend also is that the gods helped found Mycenos, and also that the gods started the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games are pretty advanced concept too. All these people from all these different independent city-states getting together and having competitions, all these physical competitions every 4 years, and that lasted officially for like 1,350 years, and even 500 years before that, so like almost 2,000 years they were doing the Olympic Games in Greece. Yeah, it was pretty. I think it was pretty, and with their written. There's just some weird stuff about. I mean, you could go on and on and on and on and on about this, but like the Hebrew language is kind of popped out of nowhere and has it's developed. It doesn't like develop sequentially. It's just kind of like developed, fully formed, with their letters all in different shapes of this one shape. But yeah, I don't want to get going on that. But yeah, I think the Pleiadians are going. I think we are able to kick it with the Pleiadians. We just have to make some adjustments, and the adjustments we have to make in order to be able to hang out with the Pleiadians is we have to. Get rid of the limitations that we put on ourselves. All these limitations people have about like religious limitations. For example, fundamentalist Christians think that stuff has to be eternal. And if you look at the pattern of history, people think that something's impossible and it'll never happen ever. When the Berlin Wall fell 3 weeks beforehand, all the politicians were like, yeah, the Berlin Wall's never going to fall, and then it falls and they don't know what to do. They're trying to stamp people in individually, and they're like, fuck it, let's just let everybody go through. People don't really, people just kind of have it's kind of like asthma, asthma is when all of your like capillaries are just freaked out and frozen, and all you have to do is relax and then you can breathe. And, yeah, so people just need to open their minds. Buddhists think that, Buddha got enlightened and then he was in this enlightened realm for all of eternity, and it's a lot, the universe is a lot bigger than that, you don't live in one realm and then advance to the next realm, which is the other realm that you go in for all of eternity. There's lots of different stages. You just have to open your mind. Jesus, I think, was probably a Pleiadian. Born here, and he could just had a really strong intuition, and he just could see the logic. And I think believing in aliens out there in space, and lots that are gradually becoming more and more advanced throughout really billions of years, is the logical way to see it. So it's kind of, I think the aliens think that it's actually kind of funny. Bashar was doing some speech, and some lady asked a question, and it was like a stupid question, like a simple question, and he's like, if you could see all the people around me, they're laughing their heads off right now, that's so funny. Because it was kind of like a question showing like limitations of somebody's ideas. And they discovered the Gospel of Judas a few years ago, and I didn't read it, but I heard the documentary, and the documentary said that like the Gospel turns out that Judas was Jesus's number one disciple, smartest disciple, and so he was actually asked by Jesus to turn him in, and he didn't want to, but he was his disciple, so he did it. And it's pretty clear if you read the Bible that that's what he did. Remember they were having the meeting, the Last Supper, and Jesus goes, well, now it is time for, I guess, whoever who knows who they are to go and do what they have to do. And at that moment, Judas got up and left. It's pretty obvious that Jesus was telling Judas to do that. It wasn't like he already knew Jesus was going to. And if Jesus knew Judas was going to do it, why would he tell him to do it? And, if he didn't want him to do it, but he knew he was going to do it, he didn't want him to do it, why would he tell him to do it? And why would he be at the Garden of Gethsemane if he didn't want to be there? It's like stupid that they have to make Judas the bad guy. But anyways, in the Gospel of Judas, the guy who understood him the most, Judas was saying that Jesus Christ was always laughing his head off because his disciples never understood what he was talking about. And he thought that was funny. Like, for example, the very last, one of the last meetings that he had, I think it was the Last Supper, he was talking about, don't worry about him because now he's going to go to his Father's kingdom. And the people were like, oh, your Father's kingdom, oh, cool. Well, when we go to your Father's kingdom, James was like, can I sit on the throne to your left? And then my brother John, he could sit on your throne to the right. And then Jesus was like, ha, 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 that's funny. No, it's not like that. It's not like a kingdom, It's much bigger than that. In my Father's house, there are billions of mansions. You could go anywhere. You just have to have faith that we will grow and advance in society, and that is what we will do. And so, yeah, people just having limitations, like if you say, yeah, there's many mansions in the sky, somebody thinks, oh, a big house floating in the sky. No, that's like those stars. I guess it was just hard for people to understand because they didn't have the scientific idea of how the universe is laid out with stars being so far away. I don't understand why, if Jesus knew that, why he wouldn't explain it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just had this intuition and he was saying other stuff. But yeah, all we have to do as humans is open our minds, and see stuff as actually being possible, and then we can hang out with the Pleiadians. It's pretty simple. That just believe that there's life everywhere. The evidence is there, that there's life everywhere and there's planets and stuff. And and then just bring that onto the Earth. Just believe that we can, if we spent our money right, we could all be on the dole and just get enough money just to eat and survive, and then we could spend our money doing whatever we want, or we could, do whatever we want as long as we don't spend money. If we want to spend money, then we just get a job, and basically we can have utopia in the world right now, and so we have to let go and believe that. But so I think if we can do that, then we can hang out with the Pleiadians, because they're just normal people like us. They're really similar, I think, to us. If you were to hang out with a Pleiadian and Pleiadians, it would be like, oh yeah, of course, that's how humanity is supposed to be. It's just people, normal people like us, only without putting limitations on themselves. And, I think somebody said that they were like abducted by aliens or something, and he found out like they're like, he said like the Pleiadian women are like 10 times stronger than Earthling men because they're just really strong. And that makes sense because they would live in a world that's really clean, no toxins, and so their bodies work really well. They can live like 1,000 years, so there's no toxins, and they work out. And I think we'll go through a period of time where we work out a lot, but then we'll figure out like technology so that we don't actually have to exercise, but we'll have the strength as though we do work out all the time, Kind of like those TENS units where you attach them to your body and they like send electrical charges to your muscles to keep your muscles alive. Like maybe just from living in a higher vibration frequency, it just makes you, it just keeps your body, all your muscles activated and keeps you very physically strong. And, yeah, and beautiful. Physically beautiful. Yeah. I have a feeling they dress in robes. Just like the gods, the Greek gods were supposed to dress in, like, togas. I think that's how it's kind of like that Star Trek with William Shatner back in the 60s. They were all dressed in togas when they found the Greek god aliens on the Greek god planet. Yeah, I think that's how the aliens dress, and they just brought that tradition down. Yeah, they're kind of like hippies, they're dressed in big white robes, naked underneath, so they can feel all the breeze and, free ball in it, just like, yeah, and their robes are kind of artistic. I think they could walk around naked if they want to, maybe a lot of them do, and then in spandex. I think when they do stuff that they have to, like, move around more, they don't want their togas to, like, snag on stuff, so they wear their spandex, which can regulate the temperature more. I don't know. Yeah, and they're totally sexy. So, yeah, I bet you they have sex a lot. Just like the dolphins. I think the dolphins, bonobos, and humans are the only animals that have sex for fun. Anyways, yeah, so, and I think he said that they're like a little bit taller than human beings. So maybe like their natural height for humans is a little bit taller than we are now, like 6 inches taller than we are now. But I don't really know. I'm just going off. I think that like Miriam Delicado talking about like the tall blondes and the Nordics and stuff. I think those guys are like Pleiadians. Although in the Pleiades they probably have a mixture, I imagine, of all the different races. I heard the different races of human beings are supposed to be like mixes from aliens from different planets, from other dimensions. So like black people are Jupiterians. I think the Native Americans are the Venusians, and white people are like the Martians. And so maybe in the Pleiades they have all the different races. The Atlanteans, I think, were kind of similar to the Native American race, like the Iroquois, the ones with the pointy noses. Similar to what some of the Incan Indians look like. Yeah. So, okay, so that's about what I think about the Pleiadians. I think they're not going to be the first ones to land, though. I think the first, well, of course, like according to Bashar, the first ones to land are these ones called the something or other, and they can't remember what their name is, but maybe they're most similar to us. And then maybe the Sithani, the ones that Bashar is half gray, half human, followed by the Pleiadians. Yeah, I think the Pleiadians maybe are a little bit higher up in the ladder. So the higher up the ladder are, the last they come, The ones most related to us are the ones who land the first. So. Ooh, okay, so that's that.